Undertaking work like this is certainly not acceptable to me, and I know it is not acceptable to Greg. And it is also not within the values of Air New Zealand and our Air New Zealand whānau, and nor is it in keeping with the values of all New Zealanders. And for that reason, I apologise on behalf of Air New Zealand that this has occurred. You'll likely be aware, and if not, I'll just give you a few details now. There is an internal review underway, which Greg kicked off as soon as he found out about this issue. The board has also commissioned an independent external review, which will be undertaken by PwC. And there's two things there. I think we want to know what has happened, but we also want to know what needs to change in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again. We take this deeply seriously, and we will do everything required to make it right and to make sure that nothing of this nature happens again.
As soon as we became aware of it, we stopped it. And as Dame Teresa said, that's because that's not the sort of work that we want to do. There's a difference between could you do the work and should you do the work. And there's no doubt that we could do the work. And being under $3 million, it got through a sign-off process that clearly we need to review. And as I said, difference between could and should. And as we reflect on it, I don't think it's the sort of work that either of us, the board and the rest of Air New Zealand would want to be doing.
Are you saying that at Air New Zealand, there is only a monetary threshold for when the CEO is made aware of business, including business that your company may be entering into that may be involving very serious criminal activity?
So what's actually in place, to the best of my knowledge, is a very robust system on the supply side. So we're buying products all across the world. And as you can imagine and would expect of us, do we have good, robust processes in place to deal with, is there child labour being done in this factory? Is it a reputable supplier? Is there money laundering? So on the supply side, I'm extremely comfortable that Air New Zealand has as good a processes as I have seen in any company in the 40 years that I've been employed. On the customer side, there are robust processes that ensure that this is signed off, that the legal contract is solid. But what was missing here is, if you like, the piece that says, should we be doing business with this customer? And what is in place on the, if you like, the revenue customer side is a sign-off that's driven by levels. So if it's 3 million, it gets signed off here. If this contract had been over 3 million, it actually would have ended up on one of my direct reports' desk. So we've got to go back and review that process and say, hey, we need to tighten that up. We're good on the supply side. We're not where we need to be on the revenue side.
What do you think of the fact that they couldn't name the military contacts that they have?
Absolutely galling that they couldn't name the handful of military contracts that they have, having just admitted before the select committee that they had no process in place to ensure that they weren't literally committing war crimes via those contracts. That he hasn't looked at that is unbelievable. That previous CEOs had no way of telling if their company was committing crimes, including crimes against humanity, is absolutely galling. We should be frightened.
Do you think that they should immediately cancel all military
Absolutely. If they had no process in place to make sure that they weren't contributing to war crimes, they know they're involved in military contracts, they should absolutely have cancelled all military contracts immediately.
I want to get the full work done rather than attack this in a piecemeal manner. I think that makes a lot more sense for all concerned.
What we don't want is anecdotal information out there that at the moment that's inaccurate, because we need to respect the process and get the right answers.
It shouldn't be anecdotal. You're here in front of MPs, you're in front of media. Shouldn't you know all the countries that you're dealing with on a military level?
Look, Air New Zealand is a very large and complex business, and this is something that's been going for a number of years. It's a small part of Air New Zealand's business. Many records, as Greg said, it goes back decades. So we need some time to go through that, because otherwise we could be giving you incorrect or incomplete information.